Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of FGI TV. I'm Jeff Bergerson. My screen name on daily sites is JT Bergerson. Joined as always by my partner, Zach Turcotte. His screen name is Mysteriously. We are with FantasyGolfInsider.com, your number one resource for everything fantasy golf and your home for DFS golf. Last week was a fun one, Zachary. In Malaysia, the CIMB Classic, you and I were up till 2 a.m. every night watching, tweeting back and forth.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I'm up every night that late anyway, so it was just nice to have something extra to watch. That
was pretty fun.
Yeah, fantastic, mostly, for the most part.
Mostly there was one guy who wasn't so fantastic.
Wasn't so fantastic for us, but, you know, those are the breaks, I guess, in golf.
Well, you can have a shot later in his honor.
Yeah,
so.
I want both of them. So.
We did identify the winner of the tournament, Justin Thomas. We recommend him most every week just because he's such a dynamic player. We saw this coming, the big breakout, and it finally came to fruition. Our stat guy, Eric, who is working on our model, which will be out early next year, identified Justin Thomas as a top pick. So we were all over him. A lot of other people were too. But
yeah, let's not pat ourselves too
No, I'm
much
not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I recommend him every week, and the guy finally won.
Finally came through.
Yeah,
it was good. It was
and there
nice.
should be many more to come, I think.
I think so too. He got that first one out of the way. The younger players, they have usually a little bit of trouble getting that first victory, and they tend to struggle on day 4 in a lot of these types of events. So I think getting over that hump, getting past that double bogey on 14, I think it was, and then coming back with 3 straight birdies down the stretch, kind of hitting that clutch stride a little bit. So hopefully going forward, he won't be quite as intense or quite as worried coming down the stretch of is it going to happen all over again? He's got his first one. It's a good way for him to start the season. He's a new FedEx Cup point leader so far in this very young season. But yeah, I anticipate that after getting close quite a bit last year, that we'll see him up there near the top quite a bit this season.
Yeah, so I mean, overall fun tournament. Is pretty cool. Now this week coming up, I just wanted to mention, is our $500 Fantasy Aces Fantasy Golf Insider free roll that they're putting on. I've gotten a lot of emails from you guys who are signed up. You gave me your username and everything, so you're getting in. They'll post the contest. If you haven't signed up on Fantasy Aces yet and want to get in the free roll, it's not too late. You can do it. A couple of steps. You got to be a member of Fantasy Golf Insider, which most of you are if you're watching this. Then you got to deposit $25 on Fantasy Aces through the link on our site. Click through the banner or the link in our preview columns. Sign up, deposit $25. You get a sign up bonus. Just use the insider code or code insider, and you get a bonus. Email me your screen name, username, and then once they post the contest, get in that free roll, 500 free bucks. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, can't beat that. Free money.
Yeah, right. So we'll start with shots of the week this week, Zachary. And there's a couple good ones. The first one we're going to do on your behalf.
Sure.
Mr. Danny Lee.
Yeah, I was.
What do you think of him? What do you think about having a blister in your finger?
Yeah, it bothered me the fact that he even sent a tweet out of it. I would, if you're going to tweet out a picture like that after you withdraw from an event, go ahead and make sure there's a bone sticking out of your entire hand. I don't want to see your little blister that you could have put a Band-Aid over, a glove over. I realize it's a little bit irritating, but we go back to football when we were kids. I remember Ronnie Lott playing a game when we were kids. He lost part of a finger.
He amputated it so he could keep playing.
So he could keep playing.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see.
He's a professional athlete.
Yeah,
come on.
You get a little irritation on your hand and you're coming out with 27 holes to go. I get it. It was bothering him, but boy, that was pretty brutal in the world of fantasy golf. A withdrawal and a no-cut event is just cut your throat. And even still, the worst part was I had him on cash game teams with Tony Finau, with Justin Thomas.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so I was borderline right on the edge with a couple of those teams to still cash, even with his withdrawal. So if he just shows up the last day, kicks it around and shoots +1,
right,
the birdie or two, a few more of us probably end up making it into the money.
Yep.
So it was a little bit frustrating because I felt like that course lined up great for his style of play, and just some bad luck. But if you were upset at me about that, I got even more of it. I had even more of it the next day in fantasy football with Ryan Fitzpatrick messing up his thumb on the first drive. So it was just a weekend chock full of injuries for very key players. that I had on teams. So Danny, thanks for the shot of the week. Oh, and he had a what was it, a quadruple bogey?
Oh
there
yeah,
as well.
Oh
So,
yeah,
so-
definitely. Speaking of quadruple bogeys,
Hey.
our second shot. Did you want to take your shot to Danny Lee since it was a shot in your gut?
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Here's to you.
Cheers. I'll do the next one. Because our second shot of the week goes to Daniel Berger, who recorded a 9-ball on the par 5 fifth. What do you think of a 9-ball on an easy par 5 that most guys are birding?
Yeah, a reachable par 5. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Nice work, Daniel.
I wish we had the shot tracker to just read off stroke by stroke how he just played that one.
Yeah, it
But-
essentially knocked him out of any chance of being in contention.
Yeah, it was a weird weekend for him. He played awful the first day. Played great on day 2.
Yep.
He played great on day 3. And then he played awful again on day 4. So, not sure what's going on.
I don't know.
Maybe his girlfriend was there at the beginning.
Maybe
and
she
at the
traveled.
end. I don't know.
She wanted to see Malaysia, so she came along and he tanked.
Something like that. I don't know what to figure out about that one, but I mean it should have been another one where the course lined up for him to have a good weekend. Mm-hmm. You know, Thomas and Finau got off to not such amazing starts and then roared back the rest of the way. I really thought that Lee and Berger would both play really the same kind of way. And I mean, of course, everybody out there is scoring, so it's really tough on weeks like last week to get differentiation, because if even the mediocre players are able to score easily, it puts a lot of pressure on those higher dollar guys.
Right.
So it's, you know, weeks like last week, you just don't want to play quite as much as you usually would. But
it's all the more reason that we say if you're playing 3 cash games, never own the same guy on all 3 cash teams, because we see what can happen there.
Yeah.
Never bet more than 15% of your bankroll in a given week. And even last week we said scale back a little bit, because this event's a little unpredictable. When you're shooting minus in the 20s, several guys, then it's a lot of scoring, a lot of variance. So
yeah, unfortunately, the other cash game team I had Nah, I had Steele, so that team came through.
Sure.
And I ended up, you lose a little bit on the cash game, but
you're not getting destroyed. So
yeah, exactly. So you come through with something at the end of the day. That's why I think 3. A lot of people are out there. They just put one lineup in.
I know.
And, you end up with bigger swings on your bankroll. So I think 2 or 3 is kind of the way to go, and that way you just end up you still have enough exposure to the guys you really like, but at the same time you can kind of limit a little bit of your downside in terms of losses.
We do have a shot of the week winner, because Daniel Berger was nominated by Stephen Mazzilli of Medford, New Jersey.
Coming to you from Disney World.
From Epcot in Disney World. Check out this picture.
2 different countries. I can't remember the countries, but there were 2 different countries. He actually made 2 stops, so it was on his mind for an extended.
I know, the picture
frame.
is so phenomenal too. It's his family's looking at him like, what the hell is going on? At least I assume that's his family, but he's taking shots and
great.
Family's looking at him. So that is outstanding, Stephen. Thanks for sending that to us. Your t-shirt's in the mail, and for anyone else who wants to send us their shot of the week candidates, send them in and get your picture up. And
yeah, you better hit that.
Thanks,
There
Stephen.
you go.
On to this week, Zachary.
Headed to China.
Headed to China for the WGC HSBC. Same type of thing this week, a no-cut event. So we need to take that into consideration.
Real high quality field.
High quality field, good players, and a lot of guys that are going to be under most people's radar. So I like this week in terms of play. I wish the contests were bigger on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's been disappointing. This is 3 weeks in a row that they've really undershot the field. We get it. The NBA season is here, but I really feel like a lot of the people who do golf are really specific or really focused on golf. And there's, I think, a certain type of DFS player that is attracted to golf, or even more sort of football, because basketball is just going every single day.
Yeah.
People don't really have a chance to keep up with that. With golf, you've got 3 or 4 days each week to do your research, to kind of comb through the statistics.
Right.
You don't have to get home from work at 5 o'clock, get your lineups in by 6 for NBA or NHL or all these other ones. So I feel like golf has a real big fan base that's out there, and I'm not sure why DraftKings is kind of undershooting it. each week. Is
every week, and they don't learn. I mean, I understand. You don't need to run a Millionaire Maker and have 200,000 people in it or whatever. But look, the contests are filling easily. Even the secondary contests are filling
second,
easily.
Third, fourth. You have all these other
so
contests.
DraftKings is making their money, but the problem is people are being discouraged from playing.
Yeah, they don't have the interest without that big prize.
Without the $100,000 or something else.
Yeah, I mean, 50. Lower it to $50,000. Okay, something that's out there. But if I have to beat a field of 60,000, 70,000, the top prize is 10 grand.
I'm not going to do 200 lineups.
Probably not going to push as much. And I can see that at all levels of play. I've heard from one player after another, I'm just not going to do it this week.
Right.
What ends up happening is you drive people off from the sport. They just forget about it during the fall.
Yep.
And if they forget about it for 3,
exactly
4
what you
months,
don't want.
Then all of a sudden they don't necessarily come back. And golf is great because you can keep people in there. We just have to hopefully get these contests, there's only 3 more weeks really before things go down for about another month or so.
So we're irritated by it. If you're irritated by it, let DraftKings know. We sent out a tweet last week.
Sent tweets at them and
some douchebag said,
don't let anybody discourage you at all.
Said don't
from expressing your disrespect.
Yeah, right. Don't disrespect DraftKings. And I'm like, well, come on, man.
I know.
That's ridiculous. We're sharing our opinion and we want them to consult us, if nothing else, for the contest sizes.
Yeah, we would actually speak to them and say, give them a better idea, because it feels like, I get it, they're the industry guys, they've been doing it for a while, but it just doesn't seem like they have a real good feel for how easily these things are going to fill up. I mean, it's the starting time is different. That throws some people off, but it's also an advantage. It starts, again, late Wednesday afternoon, early Wednesday evening. A lot of people are looking at it all Wednesday afternoon as they're filling their lineups.
Exactly.
It's just filling up. I mean, there's just tons of people that are on there as opposed to Thursday morning. There's not a lot of people up at 3, 4 a.m. putting in those lineups. You should get a little bit of a rush the last 10, 20, 30 minutes as people are kind of coming out of their slumber to make those last second changes and check on things. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that the golf is at nighttime. It probably has a much bigger audience. There's more coverage of it. So,
and if they get their pricing out earlier, it's even better, and it allows a lot more time to fill up too. So, look, we just want what's good for the industry. We want to grow PGA, obviously, and so does DraftKings. So, I don't know. That's just
make
our
your
opinion.
voices your voices heard this week. If you're not happy with the size of the contest, get on to Twitter, send emails, talk to people. Let them know that the interest really is out there. Let's fill the contest early so that they really know that, wow, we could have really had 70, 80, 90,000 people in the $3 this week. Or we could have had 200 or 250 or even more than that in the 300, so that DraftKings will see the demand is there, and they will kind of get back to the normal size contests as we get down the stretch here in the last part of the fall season.
So Sheshan West is a par 72, measures 7,266 yards, which is longer than the last few courses.
Quite a bit different,
A couple guys who won this tournament the last 2 years will stand out as bombers, Bubba and DJ the last 2 years. But it's not necessarily strictly a bombers course. Yes, they won it. 2 years ago, actually, DJ, when he won it, he was number 1 in greens and regulation that week. And if you look closely at the leaderboard every year, you're going to see guys who don't necessarily bomb it, but who are also accurate. There's a lot of greenside bunkers. Guys who are hitting greens is really important.
Yeah, sand saves, scramblers.
Sand save is scrambling's big. Tournament history is a big factor this week, except for 2012, which was not played here, so we can kind of disregard that. We can look a little bit into it, but mostly disregard it. So we'll look at every year, the last 8 years. Key stats are going to be much the same. Strokes gained tee to green, greens in regulation, par 4 scoring, par 5 scoring this week is key. Strokes gained putting, and then bogey avoidance too. I looked at the stats over the last several years, and guys aren't really able to recover on big-time bogeys. Some courses they have not been able to at Sheshan.
When everybody's scoring as much as they are in a lot of these types of events, it just takes one bad hole, as we've seen with a couple players last week, to really wipe out your chances for contending. So, definitely some things there.
We can start at the top, Zachary. Who are you identifying as a must-have in that top tier?
Well, it's going to be tough starting right at the top. I would love to be able to put Rory McIlroy onto most of my rosters, but he's so much more expensive. Him and Spieth are both so much more expensive than that next tier down that, once you start a lineup with Rory, it's not difficult to fill out the rest. You're just taking a level lower in terms of the team that you're able to field because of it. if you look at a guy like Rory, who's taken 4 top 10 finishes here in the last 5 years or so, very, very strong play, very, very strong track record. He's playing well. He did well in the recent tournament that he was on this last weekend. So there's no reason to believe that he won't continue his string of good play here. So I'd love to have him, but it's going to be tough. I don't think I can roster him for cash when there's so much value down below him.
Not a cash game play. Yeah. If I were to roster a top tier guy, he would be my selection this week. I will own him in some GPPs. I'll probably be underweight on him, I guess, but I do like him a lot this week.
Yeah, he's going to play well. Yep.
Yeah, I like him the most.
Well, what are you going to do with Jordan Spieth?
Jordan Spieth's difficult. It's always tough to fade Jordan Spieth, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
But this week, I'm not going to have very much exposure to Jordan Spieth. I'm gonna go on fade mode. He hasn't played a whole lot in the last month or more since the President's Cup, so we haven't seen a lot of him.
Played really well, though, at the President's Cup.
He did, and he's a stud, I know that. But with his salary, I think I'm just going to be dropping down like I have been. I have been fading the top several guys each tournament in the fall, and it's paid off each week. So I think I'm going to be on fade mode for him.
Sure.
The guy who is kind of standing out to me as in the top tier but down a little bit is Adam Scott now. Has he found his putter?
Apparently. I mean, watching him a couple days sink a couple of 40-foot eagle putts, I just about fell on the ground a few times and thinking this can't go in. This is a two putt, maybe a 3-putt right here for Scott. And sure enough, it just keeps rolling, curving into the cut. I mean, just over and over and down the stretch. Now, I was on Twitter, and my thought was if he got to minus 25, he had a very good shot at winning the tournament. I mean, it took a pretty heroic effort from Thomas to hit 3 consecutive birdies there to put himself over the top, and even Thomas almost gave it away. But had that thing gone to a playoff, I think it would have been Scott's tournament there because he was killing it.
He's a top flight ball striker. We know this.
The putting looked good. I mean,
when the putting comes around,
he wasn't missing those short putts the way we've seen over the last few weeks.
Right.
And he was making some of the longer ones. So that was if he's finally gotten over his putter issue. I know it's been. He went kind of back and forth last year with his putter, changed a couple different times. Now it's a new season, so
2 straight good performances in full field tournaments, plus he shellacked Ricky Fowler in the President's Cup. So that's 3 really solid performances in a row. And this week at 9,900, that seems like a pretty decent deal, and one that I will have exposure to Adam Scott in GPPs.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to. I think he's definitely one of those guys that this week, just the way that he's been playing, and if he's over his fear of the regular putter, then everything is going to be very, very good for him coming up this season. You know, looking a little bit lower than that, I guess the next guy that is kind of forcing himself back into the conversation week after week would have to be Kevin Na.
Every week I feel like this is the last week that Kevin Na, before he hits his wall,
again, right?
He can't do it again.
It's a longer course this week. Can he do it again? Is this his style? I mean, he does have the skill set again to do well on a course like this. Not a guy that you're going to pick if you need a winner.
No, he's not going to win.
Certainly not a guy. When he pulled out his 3-wood on the last hole, down 2 shots, I just thought we're not even going to make an attempt to.
Yeah. I
mean, he probably didn't have the length to get it there anyway, but playing that conservatively, he actually didn't even give himself a decent birdie putt to end the event. So that was a little bit disappointing, but a couple seconds and a third right out of the gates, that's pretty impressive. So I still think he's a guy, if you wanted to start your cash game teams,
you could do
right
worse.
there at 9,500 at him or the winner of the event, Justin Thomas. That's kind of my ceiling for where I want to start my cash games this week. If you get much higher than that, then you're starting to get down. You have to dig down into that low 7,000, high 6,000 range, and I don't really usually like to do that because there's not as many guys down there that I want to be looking at. So Na and Thomas, it's kind of my starting point. I think if you drop a little bit below there, our old $80,000 favorite, Paul Casey, is just below that. Guy's been playing great. He hasn't really been in the mix for a victory recently, but he's right there as far as always contending for at least like a top 10 type of finish. And he's been putting up quite a few points along the way. So I think at 9,200.
You like Casey. Good for you.
I felt like that was an indictment right there.
Fair enough.
Like Casey. So Jeff.
Yeah, I don't like Casey
He's
this
not
week.
He's not into Casey. All right.
No, I would rather drop down for GPP purposes. I always like Martin Keimer. He has that ability to play well. He's played well in this event. Like he's played like a madman. He's been really good. He's won this event before. Yeah. Not a cash game guy. But definitely, I will own him in GPP. I will be overweight Keimer.
He's either good or bad.
Probably till the day I die, just because he's won me so incredibly much money.
Yeah, he did that with a one big event. He killed it
Players and the U.S.
So,
Open last year. He killed
good.
it. And actually, he killed it this summer in the
PGA Championship.
PGA Championship. He did well, too.
Yeah, he did well on that one. So, yeah, he's had some moments. But, it's funny. His inconsistency doesn't really bother you. But then you get down to a guy like Louis Oosthuizen.
Well, Martin Keimer, we know, can actually finish the event. Louis Oosthuizen, he has a great history too, and it's like not Louis. A bad play.
I do like Louis this week, especially for GPP. Not as excited with cash, just because he does have that strange tendency to withdraw from a lot of events.
Cash,
I mean, if Danny Lee's got a blister, then Oosthuizen's the king of having. I got a kink in my neck, my back's tightening up. I got a pebble in my shoe. I mean,
I've just made it a point to never pick Louis Oosthuizen, just because I don't want.
But when he gets
to blow up my team,
when he gets rolling though, I mean, when he is really on, he can just turn it on and just go birdie. I mean, he has those streaks like he had at the U.S. Open and then at the Open. Where he could just be fantastic. The President's Cup, he was locked in just a few weeks ago. This is an event that he has done well on in the past, and he's always under-owned. So I think as far as GPP plays are concerned, he's definitely a guy that you can be looking at this week.
I think what's kind of sweet is Emiliano Grillo is kind of affordable this week.
Sure.
Because he missed the cut, but we saw he won. Everyone was all over him. Now he's kind of the forgotten man, kind of buried down at 8,400.
Yeah, it's a much tougher field, too. So the other names that are around him this week are much bigger.
Sneaky play this week. I like it.
Yeah, he will be a little bit under the radar. There's going to be a handful of those guys starting.
So give me a couple names, Zachary, that are going to be under most people's radar.
I don't know if
lower ownership.
Should we give them away? Do you want to give some of these away?
Maybe a couple.
Maybe just a couple. Well, there's you were big on Lahiri last week.
I like Lahiri again this week. I liked what I saw last week. He played well. There were a couple poor putting exhibitions. But if he hits his putts. But his form is as good as anybody right now.
And he's cheap. He's, 8,300 this week?
Yep.
What was he owned by the field last week? Somewhere in that 9% range?
He was owned, between 8 and 12%. I think we both actually predicted. There were a couple we were way off on, which was crazy. Like
Alex Check
was owned by a quarter of the field.
23.6%. And then, of course, I had to open my mouth and tweet that out, which spurred him on to an amazing first round.
He didn't finish. He finished 20th, well.
20th,
he finished well. But
great for the price, but I should have just...
I loved how you tweeted and boom, he is just invigorated.
He's out of the gates with the birdie. No, I own him on one team. Yep. So there were a couple guys that were a little bit of a surprise. Lahiri was right in the range that we thought he would be. He's going to get a little more exposure. But again, he's another guy where, he played okay last week, but not high enough to get a ton of TV time down the stretch. So he's still going to be a guy that nobody is really looking at, I think, with this stacked of a field.
Yeah.
Looking right below him, a guy who's going to be, I think, way below the radar, and unless a whole bunch of guys like us and Pat Mayo and some of the other pundits out there on him, is Matthew Fitzpatrick down at 8,200. He has just been on an incredible tear in a lot of the events that he's just had one top 10 finish after another in a lot of the European events that he's been playing in recently. He's a younger guy. He's extremely talented. This will be, I think, his first WGC event. I expect really big things out of him, but he's probably a name that I don't think anybody out there is seen or heard of. So get in the know on him. Take a look at him. Go to our Who's Hot page if you're one of our subscribers. Yeah. And you can check out that recent history for yourself. It was over the last, I think, at least 4 to 5 events. He's just top 10, top 10, top 10.
He's really good.
He's moved right up the board. So that's a great guy, I think, for GPP this week. The
cool thing about the Who's Hot spreadsheet is there are probably 5 or 6 guys that I know will be owned by less than 10% of the field this week. Sure. I identified them as in my recommendations in my column, so be sure to check that out. And I'll give you another name, but the rest you'll have to read the column for. Chris Wood is another guy who's been playing really well. He's under the average salary, and I think he has a chance to surprise some people. And if you have him in a GPP at less than 10% ownership, we talk about how we need to identify those guys, and I think he has an opportunity to do well this week.
Yep, yeah, he's a good one down there too. And then getting down below 8,000, we were kind of going back and forth on this one a little bit, but we were on him last week.
Who's that?
He had a little finger issue. And
oh,
are you out? Do you need another more of the?
No, there's a little bit. There's a drop left, but I might need another one if you talk me into rostering him.
I'm just gonna say it. I think Danny Lee is a sneaky contrarian pick this week.
Wow.
All right. I mean, the big thing is that you look for is he hasn't withdrawn from the field yet. He hasn't withdrawn from the event, so he's going to be there. I almost feel like he maybe cut out a little bit early last week because this is a bigger event. You know, WGC. It's a more prestigious event with a better field.
Is the blister healed?
I tweeted at him today. He didn't respond.
He didn't respond to you. How dare him?
He's probably heard some of the things we've had to say. He's been happy to respond.
I'm sure he's watching right now.
I'm sure. I'm tuned in. It's outrageous.
Taking shots along with us.
Yeah. But I think it's 7,700. Nobody's going to own a guy who withdrew last week.
Right.
And showed that he had this blister. So very low ownership. But if he gets his game going, if he gets on, he can be a guy who I'm not going to play him for cash, and I'm probably not going to play him in my largest buy-in GPPs this week, but I will sneak him into a few $3 lineups this week and have him on board. You know, who knows? Maybe he gets some Chinese balm to, kind of rub on the finger there. Kind of took care of things for him. So I don't know. I'm going to assume until I hear differently that he's going to be able to play through it. And like I said, if he gets on a tear, and 7,700, it's not a hard price for him to cover if he's playing even, relatively decent this week. So Danny Lee, kind of a sneaky GPP contrarian pick.
Anyone else down below his level, even in the real deeper sleepers? I think I've hit my bottom at about 7,000. I think is as far down as I'm going to go.
I made it to 6,900. I think a guy that I like right there at 7,000 in a no-cut event is David Langmuth.
Okay. Tell me why.
Well, he's a guy who he played fantastic down the stretch all the way up until the playoffs started. And then the playoffs started and things got a little bit rocky for him for a couple of events. Recovered a little bit at the BMW, but wasn't great there. But in a no-cut event, the pressure really is off of him. He didn't start out last week all that great.
No, he didn't.
On the first round, I thought, geez, he's really struggling here. But he got his game together. He came back and he gradually worked his way up into a very respectable finish for the week. And if you look at the last time when he played in a WGC, a no-cut event, the Bridgestone, he did very well. I think he ended up in 6th place for the event. So he is the type of player who can play well. I think without a cut, a little bit less pressure for him. The game lines up pretty well for this course. Mm-hmm. So I do think at 7,000, I think he's definitely a guy that you can take a look at down there. So I think that's, that is sort of the range. That is kind of near the bottom of the range. There's one or two other guys who will have a little sprinkling. But I think my biggest play in that range would be David Langmuth this week.
Okay, all right. I might have a little dabbling of Soren Keldsen down there at 7,200.
Oh, I didn't think you were going to give that one away.
Yeah. I have a little bit of him.
He burned me the last time I had him. So.
Yeah, he might burn. He's GPP only, but I think he's got a chance.
There's another guy at a WGC event at Bridgestone. He was 12th place there too. I think it's a fairly similar type of course, not quite as long as Bridgestone, but and it's a no-cut event.
Right.
And he has played exceptionally well over about the last 6 weeks or so. So definitely a guy at 7,200 worth taking a shot on. So
okay. Yeah. All right, sir. Anything else that you want to end with?
No, I got nothing for you.
Okay. All right. We got another week of late nights.
Perfect.
So that'll be nice. Just wanted to give a shout out to our stat guy, Eric, who's working on the model. Did real well last week with the model for the 3rd consecutive week in the fall.
If any of you guys want to build some note cards with phonetic pronunciation of player names.
Yeah, he has a hard time with name pronunciation, but he's a numbers guy, so we don't really care that much as long as he produces some solid winners. We're going to be rolling out the model early in 2016, so look for that. Be sure to get in the Fantasy Aces free roll. Hit us up on Twitter. You're going to do Periscope tomorrow night now again, or Tuesday night?
It'll be tomorrow night again. I'm probably around like 9 o'clock or so.
Okay, so Tuesday night, check Zachary out on Periscope.
Call me, wake me up.
Yeah, I normally do, but hit us up on Twitter. What else? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think that's all I got for this week.
Yeah, and then the last thing too, make sure, we're into November now, so our deal for subscribers who come on board in 2015, you're going to be able to lock in your prices. You're going to be grandfathered in if you sign up now and you stay with us moving forward. We will be bumping up the prices come January 1,
Right.
2016. So, if you want to get on board now, you've been watching us, you want to subscribe, you want to start reading our stuff, get in now, because it's definitely going to be huge savings for you going forward. And if you've got friends or anybody else that you think would be interested, make sure you talk to them now, because that offer is good. It's going to be good for 2 more months. We'll talk about it each week before then, but definitely a great deal and something that we wanted to offer all of you for being so loyal and being on board here this first year with us.
And the other thing, we realize there aren't many events. There's one event in December, the Hero Challenge, which is a limited field, but they still run a contest. But we're not going to have a ton of tournaments. We're not going to have a ton of previews. We realize that,
We've got a
which
lot
is
of great
why
columns in the works.
Zach is doing an in-depth study into winners of the $3, the $300 GPPs, the big field tournaments, what it takes. He's going to release part of the article each week in December. After December, it goes away. So you guys who have been loyal to us and stayed on board get to see this valuable information, which is huge. In December, because it's a gift to you guys, since there aren't that many events in December, to stay on board. And like Zach said, save some money too, because the rates are going up in January. So thanks for joining us again. Good luck this week, and we'll see you soon.
Good luck.